We are Tim and Katie, and we've spent the last 9 months converting our 2020 Ford Transit into the campervan of our dreams.
Let's check it out. We have the kitchen, the dinette, and our bed, and of course our shower. So that's just our layout. So part of our pantry, which is one of our favorite components, is this pull-out pantry. We really wanted to maximize the space. As you can see, this corner is angled, and we did not want to have any handles here where you can hit your leg as you're coming in the van. So we have this push to open, and we store all of our dry goods here. Okay, here we have our utensil drawer, and because it's so shallow, we made these custom cutlery holders, which have been very handy so far. Okay, and then this next one we have for just larger utensils and saran wrap and stuff like that. And then we have our snack drawer, which is really a huge drawer. We can probably put way more in here. And then down here we have our pots and our pans. They all have latches so they don't open during our trip. Okay, also in the base cabinet we have the NovaKool R4500, which is a 12-volt compressor fridge. We love the size of this, and it does stick out a little bit, which is one of the drawbacks from it. As you can see, the door swings out, so it can't be within the base cabinet, but it's a trade-off we're willing to take.
Going back to the sink, one thing we really like is this push button switch to use the pump. So you just push that there and the pump's on and now off. So we turn it on. You can use the sink for the drain. Look underneath here. So here's the garbage first. We just have a kind of a makeshift setup, but we kind of like it, so I think we're going to keep it. And then underneath here is our 7-gallon gray water tank. But if you might be able to see at the back, there's a T that comes off the Camco drain here, and one line goes out straight onto the bottom of the van, down onto the ground, and then the other one comes into our gray water tank. So depending where we're parked, we switch between the two. And then lastly, we added a light on a doorbell switch here, just to easily tell the level of the gray water tank, so that we never overflow.
Okay, so these overhead cabinets, we did a lot of scribing to get the angle as close to the van as we could to maximize the space. So in this first one we have our utensils, or our plates and our bowls, as well as measuring cups. So that's that one. We have these gas struts that keep it up, as well as the same latches as the drawers down below. All of the cabinets and the walls are made of Baltic birch, and in the kitchen as well as in the dinette area we recessed the ASCU LED puck lights so we'd have nice lighting from below. Same thing on this side, more toiletry type stuff, and they're the same design, left to right. Tim's clothes, my clothes, and then camera equipment, etc. Moving on to the dinette area here, we have this table, which is one of our favorite features of the van. It's, as you can see, floating, which is awesome because when you sit down here, it's relatively narrow if there's two pairs of legs in here, so we didn't want to have something in the center. So it's actually in the wall. It's an L-shaped bracket that's behind the Baltic birch and secured pretty nicely, so it takes a lot of weight. It's not super wobbly, but there's enough room for Tim and I to both have our laptops out or, you know, not be crowded during dinner. Moving on to the seats, we have these cushions that slide off. The top one comes off too, but we don't need to access this. This will be storage for more camera equipment, and there's also the plugs on the wall, as you can see, for the UV light and hot water tank. Okay, so if we move the bag out of the way, you can see the Webasto heater down below. Tim designed the box and then a friend helped make it for us. It's out of aluminum. And then we have the vent of the Webasto ducted out the side, And coming out of the bottom here, which is a great spot because it's right near your kitchen.
So under this other bench seat is something I'm really excited about. It's the components for the recirculating shower. So I take the cushion off and lift up. And there's everything that's needed for the shower loop. And I've had a lot of questions about that, so I'm hoping to piece together an ebook to show step-by-step kind of all the components and how you could make it yourself. But then if you come over here, it's the control panel, which also we're really happy with how it turned out. So we have our BMS for the battery bank and the solar, all of that. So we'll go to the back of the van in a little bit and show you how all that works. Basically, it's a 560 amp hour battery bank, and we have 481 left right now. And we have our on-off switch for the inverter, and then our Webasto smart controller, our water gauge for our 34-gallon water tank, and it's just set on an illuminated on-off switch here, so you can't get left on. And then here's the water pump for the shower, and the UV light for the shower. So basically, when you go to take a shower, you come on over here and you just turn the pump on and the UV light on, and then when you turn the shower on and off, the water will flow and stop flowing. We initially were going to go with the Renogy lithium phosphate batteries, but we're really thankful that we went with the DIY lithium battery route with the 560 amp hour battery. Our main power draws are the hot water tank and the induction cooktop, and most days the lowest we get is around 400 amp hour, and then that quickly recharges with the DC to DC charger off the alternator and the solar panels. The last part here is the timer switch for the hot water tank. So if you hit 30 minutes, really it only takes about 20 minutes to heat up. So when you come back, maybe you're out for a walk or something, the tank will be hot and ready to shower. Okay, so we'll show you guys the recirculating shower. And we use the Nautalis retractable shower door. And then inside we used a 24 by 32 inch shower pan. And for the walls, it's not actually tile, it's sheet vinyl flooring. At the junctions we use this 1/16 inch vinyl trim, and so we use the inside corners. And then for the light, we use the same LED strip lights that we used elsewhere at the back of the van around the bed. So the really cool thing with the shower is that it's recirculating. So it only uses about 3.5 gallons of water, and it goes through a 5-part filter system. Basically a strainer at the drain, a strainer before the pump, sediment filter, a carbon filter, and a UV light filter. So what it allows you to do is use that 3.5 gallons of water over and over and over and continue showering. And it's huge when you only have 34-gallon fresh water tank in the van. You don't have to continually be using that for your shower. So for us, it might sound a little bit gross, but so far we've taken 8 showers on the same 3.5 gallons of water. And basically it's just a simple series of opening valves to drain that and flush that 3.5 gallons out, and then we just have a little setup where you take from the faucet through another hose and refill the shower right there. One last thing about the shower that goes with it is we did install a max air fan in the van, and we put it right next to the shower and close to the kitchen. It's really impressive how much air this thing can vent out, and it hardly draws any power. It is 12 volt, and then we did leave this extra small gap here at the top of the shower, so that, and it's kind of neat when you're showering, when someone's showering, you can see the steam exiting the shower just going right up through the fan, so it works.
No condensation.
No condensation.
Okay, so now we're going to have a look at the cab of the van. So the first thing that we did was install a Scofama swivel seat for the passenger only. And all you do is pull the tab on the front, and then it spins right around, and it's ready for use. So we like this when we're just kind of hanging out. Tim sits here, I'll sit here, while the other one of us is either making food or, I don't know, basically anything, because it's out of the way, and you can also have a nice view of outside. It's very handy. We like it so far. Okay, and then up here we have the headliner. From the Vancillary kit. We found that very helpful because it's a very awkward shape. So it comes with the brackets and then the stencil to make the plywood headliner. I covered it with fabric to make it a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. So yeah, it's been handy for things like bear spray, bug spray in the bin, and of course our insulated window covers. Okay, so we made these window covers with Easy Cool as well as Havelock wool, and then we stitched it all together into 4 sections so that we could fold them up. And then the magnets that we sewed along the outside clip right into the van wall, and they stay perfectly in place, so they block out any light, and they're also pretty good for sound dampening as well, we found. And the last thing from this area is the insulated curtain, blackout curtain, which provides some privacy and also shields from the sun and people walking by. So it's been very handy, and basically we just have it on a tension rod that's jammed between the foam blobs on either side.
You may have noticed that we never showed you a toilet in the van tour, and that's because we store our folding portable toilet underneath the bed just behind the water tank. And so all it is, it folds up on a tripod and you can sit on it, but you put a plastic bag inside the toilet and then you do your business and you seal the bag and dispose of it. We went with this because we don't actually plan on using the toilet very much inside the van, and so we couldn't justify spending over $1,000 and building it into the van, either a composting toilet or a Laveo dry flush. On our 5-day trip so far, we've been able to always find a different resource to use, and we haven't had to use this setup, but we're glad we have it if we are traveling in a city. It's really easy to set it up in the shower, and you're good to go.
Now we'll make our way back to the bed here. So as you can see, we've set it up to sleep widthwise. A lot of people sleep lengthwise, but we were really happy with our decision to sleep widthwise because we are allowed to use so much other space for the van. It does reduce some of the insulation on each end, but Tim's 6'2" and he can sleep that way no problem. Also, as you can see, there are 2 bunk windows on either side. We crack those open at night and then have the fan going to keep the air circulating and try to minimize the amount of condensation, which has so far been working really well. Also, to minimize condensation, we have a plywood board underneath the bed as a platform, and we drilled decent sized holes in it to keep it breathable. Underneath here, you will see our sleeping security guard. We thought that we would actually close this off, but we've really liked keeping it open to allow Indy to come and go. Buddy! Good boy. And it also is really helpful because when we are in the kitchen and everything, he just goes to his bed and he's not a tripping hazard.
I'm not doing much security right now.
Okay, the last thing in the bed area are the electrical switches by the bump outs. So first one here is on Tim's side. There are 2 USB charges and then this light for the LED strips, which are on both sides of the bump outs. And then on this side we have a 12-volt charging port in the center here, as well as 2 USB chargers. And then this switch just controls whether this whole system is active or not. And then we have a dimmer switch for the overhead lights, so we can control it from the back, so it's a 3-way switch, or from the kitchen area over there, which is really handy to have. And then we will show you guys the electrical down below.
Okay, so let me show you guys the garage. The van's a little bit dirty because we've been on the road for 4 days. So on the driver's side of the van, we have the electrical compartment, so all the batteries and charge controller and inverter, and I'll show you that in a second. But over here, we have our 34-gallon fresh water tank. The fill port is just at the top here. Thankfully, we can still access it even with the bikes in. And then we have a compartment down here just to access the valve that we can use to drain the tank. The tires just fit nicely behind the door here. And then the e-bikes are mounted just on these fork mounts. And then on the electrical box here, we have a Just some outlets on a charge port that's connected to the inverter. So if we need to charge the e-bikes or use any power tools back here, we could plug them in right there. Here's our light for the garage. And now I'll show you a bit of the electrical system. So in our electrical cabinet here, we have our 3000 watt inverter, the 60 amp Sterling DC to DC charger that runs off the alternator. And then our battery is a 560 amp hour 12 volt battery. So it's a 2P4S configuration of 280 amp hour EVE cells. And then I went with the Chargery 300 amp BMS, and that's also the Chargery display module that we saw before on the control panel there. I tried to design it so everything could be accessed from the front, so just through Indy's dog door here. Our master on-off switch, you can just reach down. Our DC contactor that goes with the Chargery BMS. Our solar panel breaker, and then our solar panel charge controller, the Rover. Each device has its own breaker on the positive, and then obviously our Blue Sea fuse block and all the fuses there. So let's go on the roof and I'll show you the solar panels in the deck. So we didn't show this before, but we keep this extendable ladder behind the driver's seat. It was really Katie that wanted to go with the extendable ladder, but I'm really glad we did. Mainly for security reasons. We just feel so much better having the solar panels and paddle boards and different stuff strapped on the roof without any attached ladder that anyone could just climb up. So we'll go check out the solar panels. So I designed the roof rack and had it fabricated in cam loops, and then we took it and got it powder coated. As you can see, it's designed to ideally fit these 5 100 watt panels around the fan, and then the end portion here is a roof deck, and it's made of composite fascia. And we went with the fascia because our spacing was close enough together that it still remains strong, but it's really light compared to the Trex composite decking. Those other brands of composite decking are actually quite heavy. So we're really happy with the durability and how it's holding up so far. It's been out in the sun and snow for about 8 months now, and it's still looking good. And it'll be really easy to swap out if we need to. You could, in theory, go with 3 more 100 watt panels back here, but we like having the option to come sit up here, or as you can see, store our inflatable paddle boards up here or anything else we need to strap on. The main modifications we did to the van, other than the roof rack, were definitely the tires and rims. We went with the black Rhino Havasu rims and the BFG KO2s, and we went the biggest size you can without having to trim the pinch weld. And so those are the 250 570 R16s. They made a huge difference to the van. We paid for it a little bit with the fuel mileage, but we're really happy when we went with them. Thanks for watching. We're so thankful we've had the chance to convert this van. Having never done a project like this before, we've learned so many new skills and we've loved the process.
Now we get to embark on some awesome adventures and hopefully take you guys with us. Who knows, maybe there'll be another van conversion coming up in the future.